Hey guys. So Jillian, she slides in at the last second.
I do. That's my thing. It's the first time in a long time that I've actually been recording and doing podcasts and stuff. And weirdly enough, today, like I actually moved another podcast so I could come on this live stream. It's like I'm popular again.
You have never not been popular.
Oh, no, not true. In high school, I was not popular.
Well, that's because you were the nerdy kid.
So true. True words have never been spoken.
No, I love it. And yeah, as you slid in here, I do admit that it sounds like you were in the kitchen, like throwing pots and pans around, trying to figure out what's going on.
I needed water. I'm dying. You got to stay hydrated during live streams.
Totally, and even more so in Puerto Rico as you live the life in paradise.
I do. But
so
yes.
Why? Like,
wow.
Why'd you get like pick up and like change all of life?
Oh, well, okay. So the thing was, my friend Jeff, who's I invest in real estate with him. We have a company called Last Life Ever together. He was a lawyer himself. He went to Puerto Rico for like a vacation, and he said, "I think you should move to Puerto Rico." And I thought, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Not a lot of people know this, but I actually went to high school in Puerto Rico. And when I left for college, I was like, I'm never going to that place again. It sucks. And, you know, because not to get too weird, but like, it's not a white girl going to high school in San Juan, Puerto Rico isn't the easiest thing to do. And so I was like, no, I'm never going back there. But he planted the seed, and I came out here, and honestly, for me, it always comes down to real estate. It always comes down to real estate. And I found a house, and I was like, it was a diamond in the rough. And I thought, I'm going to take that house and I'm going to transform that house. And that's where I'm going to move to Puerto Rico. And so we ended up moving. It's the best real estate deal I've ever done, believe it or not.
I remember you showing me the picture, the only thing listed being this green grubby pool. And you're like, you know that there's more.
I did. I was like Inspector Clouseau. I was taking Google. I was going on Google Earth and trying to Google Earth the house to see like where it was in relation to things. And like, it didn't even show this house has an ocean view. The ad didn't even show that it had an ocean view. So I was like trying to figure out the whole thing before I even got to look at the house, because the agent wouldn't get back to me. That's something for all of you to know out there in real estate world, is like, never take the first no. You gotta have at least 3 no's before. That's true in life. That's true in real estate. Never take the first no.
True with investors. A no is just,
a no is just amazing. Yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing about investors, right? Like, I stand by my statement about no is not a final answer all the time. I do stand by that. But the thing about investors is what I find is it's also important to get in good investors, right? Like those investors who are going to continue to be supportive of you and your dream and your vision and your investment opportunity throughout the process. Now, the only way they can do that, though, is if you're honest with them up front. So let's start with that. You got to be honest.
This is a lawyer saying, be honest.
Yes, I am, Nathaniel. You be good.
Even when I lie, I'm telling the truth.
Oh my God. So yeah, no, you want to be you want to be honest, and if you start with honesty, and if you even show a little vulnerability, not desperation, there's a difference, right? You show a little vulnerability with potential investors, then they're going to continue to be supportive of you. They're going to be supportive of you. They believe in the deal. Now, if somebody says this just isn't right for me right now, take that as them being honest with you, but continue to follow up with them. It's funny because I'm friends with this insurance agent who's constantly tried to sell me life insurance. And I will
Well, that's why
constantly
you
say,
should get variable universal life.
right. So he'll tell me, he'll be like, oh, do you want this life insurance? Do you want this life insurance? And I'll say to him, not right now. It's not.
But don't you care about your family?
Said like, do you sell life insurance, Nate? You sound really good at this.
I actually used to. When my first job out of law school was working for an annuity wholesale company. I had my group of sales reps and I was teaching sales strategies and marketing strategies. And that was actually my secret of what I did when I started being an attorney. I used the exact same concepts of, hey, let's teach you to sell more. Let's teach you to get more investors.
Sure.
And that's how I built my entire book.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like, no is not no forever. No is no for now. Right. Like, and that's what you have to think about with investors. No is no for now, because the thing is, like, despite me telling all of you out there to be honest with your investment, and I mean that, and I'm really, really mean that, investors aren't always honest with you, right? Like, they just might not have the money right then and there, but they're not going to tell you that. You know, people get weird.
And I go with, if they say no, they just need more information. You don't get the final no until
Right.
they've hung up on you.
Right. That's a bad sign, right? But yeah, I've done that before. I've hung up on people. If I'm being honest.
Good old stockbroker days, just pounding on the phone. No just means, well, provide a little more.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite stories is when I used to work in a real estate brokerage, like an apartment. It was an apartment brokerage, and I didn't do apartment brokerage. We actually did condo conversions. So, like, it was weird. We were in an apartment brokerage, but our section of the office / company, we did development. We were developers. And so we bought apartment buildings and developed them into condos. It was a great job. It was great when it was good, right? Like, this is like, we're talking 2004, 2005.
Oh, that was a jam. I was living in San Diego at that time too.
Yeah, and it feels very familiar right now, right? Because then what did we see happen? Interest rates started going up. Everyone was complaining. No one could buy a house. It's like, I know for, especially for Gen Xers or younger millennials, this feels very dystopian right now, but this happened before. We lived this before, maybe not to this extreme, but it was bad before. I remember getting out of law school not being able to afford a house.
I gotta say this loud and clear. Besides the fact I'm thinking about moving to Temecula, by the way, we'll talk about that later. But I do want to say, like, really loud, like, you know, what we're seeing a lot in over here at Crowdfunding Lawyers is it's tougher to find the accredited investors, the high net worth investors. They've been stuck in deals. They're trying to figure out what their next move. They're getting capital calls.
Yeah.
When you bring up the millennials and the zennials through Regulation CF, which was really not usable whatsoever when you were practicing law.
Yeah, that's true.
It's opening up new avenues and new worlds, but also allowing those same people that are living in this dystopian world to actually be able to invest.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, it's so funny because my 13-year-old is taking a financial literacy course right now, believe it or not. And he had to ask us, he had to sit down and like interview me about money and like how do we save money and how do we spend money and how do we plan for emergencies. And it was like, I was a little taken. I have to be honest, despite the fact that I love the fact he was asking me these questions, I was also a little taken aback. Like, how do you tell your kid how much money do you have when their world is like, oh my God, I have $100, and you tell them like, well, our emergency fund is $50,000. Like, how do they wrap their head around that, right? So, but I said to him, this is valuable advice for him, for you and me. It's valuable for the audience, which is like, when I was in law school and I had not a dime, I was working and just saving as much money as I could, or just like trying to survive, really. And my real estate, it wasn't property law, but it was like a real estate law, like how to actually get into real estate class. The woman who taught that class stopped class one day and said to all of us, I'm going to give you some advice. Whether you're a poor law student now or you're a wealthy lawyer later, this is advice you should always live by. And that is, you pay yourself first. And I think the younger generation who's struggling right now, and even people our age who are struggling right now, they've lost sight of that. They've lost that. Pay yourself first, which is that you take that little bit of money, that tiny, tiny bit of money, whatever it is, 10%, 5% of your take home pay, you put it away. You don't even look at it. You don't see it. You don't touch it. It doesn't exist as far as you're concerned, and you save it. And if you start doing that, that's when you're going to start being able to, you're going to be like, oh, now I can invest. Now I can go into these crowdfunding deals. I can get into these real estate deals. But, and I'm talking a lot, so I'll come up for air in about 2 seconds. I do want to say this though. For those of you out there who are saying like, there's no accredited investors, they're all tied up, they're getting capital calls and stuff like that. You're hearing the loudest voices right now. That's all you're hearing. You're hearing the loudest voices. You're hearing the people who've been the most damaged. You're hearing the cries of, I've been capital called. Because the reality is there's more dollar bills out there now than there ever has in the history of the world. There's never been more cash out in the economy than there is right now. So you just got to find it. There's still 29 million accredited investors out there. I think if you find a couple of them, you'll be okay.
And that is, you can never give up on the accredited investors. You're absolutely correct that the guys that are yelling and screaming are the ones that are having the issues, but they're out there. And, from the standpoint of finding them.
Yeah.
How do you find them nowadays? It's the strategies have changed a little bit over the last decade or so.
Well, okay. So first and foremost, one thing that I always hated, and everything comes back to, the roosters come back to roost. What is the saying? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is
I keep saying there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and then now I'm feeling like absolutely horrible about that.
I know that's not very nice, right? But the saying
don't skin a cat.
Don't skin a cat. The saying doesn't matter. The point of it is that I was right, and this is what I was right about. Let's bring it full circle. So what was I right about? What I was right about is that I never liked the methodology of just throwing out there 22% return on investment, just give me your money, accredited investors only. It didn't matter what the deal was. Whenever you just go out there and blatantly ask people to invest, I never was cool with that. I always thought that was bad form for a variety of reasons. And And
under
to
promise, over deliver.
Yeah, under promise, over deliver. Number one. And number two, build up some trust first. And it's so funny because a month or two ago, I got an email from one of these people who does advertising in this manner. And they're like, it's like, earn 20% on your investment, buy into this property, class, A building, blah, blah, blah. Didn't even say where the property was. Like, no indication whatsoever of where the property was. And it's like, you've blown it with me for literally the rest of your syndication career. I'll never invest with you now because you didn't even have enough respect for me to tell me where the property was. Let
me take that like 3 steps further, because I get this question all the time. Like, I want to do a fund. There's so much talk about, hey, I just want to do a fund. I want to take all the investor money and I want to do whatever I want with it. Sounds great in concept. Love the concept. But the reality is you always coach people, do syndications first. Focus on the property. Talk about the demographics. Talk about the wonderfulness of this particular opportunity. Otherwise, and in the case that you just gave, they're just looking at you. What's your prior performance? What have you done lately? Do I already know, like, and trust you? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to give you the money anyways. If the answer is no, it's really, you got to focus on the property itself.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because it's interesting, because I'm not going against your advice, because I think that's actually really, really good advice, but let's mitigate for a second, right? Let's talk about the guy who's not buying a property that's huge, right? Like, we have a mutual client who shall remain nameless, that for just protection purposes, not because he did anything wrong. Let's just say, for example, you have somebody who's like, I'm going to be buying properties that are a lot smaller, like they're $500,000 properties. So syndicating them doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I've got a solution for that.
What's that?
Go ahead. Okay. No. I'll talk about it, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, but like that, in that circumstance, a fund may actually make sense. And then you say, well, what about your track record? And if they're focused on you? Well, I don't know if you have to so much focus on you or the track record or the property. You focus on the greater market, and the purpose. And I work a lot with people on their purpose. Like, what is your actual purpose? Is it, and you got to really think about that. And that's where you come up with your elevator pitch. And this particular person's, pitch is that we're providing the necessary housing for a much needed demographic in a market that is struggling right now to build new homes, right? I really screwed that pitch up because I'm trying to protect the integrity of the deal. But if you're struggling with that and you say, like, well, then I'm going to start a fund, and you want to have some credibility on your side, get somebody as an advisor and put them, use their credibility, and then get out there and show with show that you are the expert in that space. So I'm just going to pick a random city like New Orleans. If you know all about New Orleans and you should invest in this neighborhood, but not that neighborhood, then you should be educating people on that on a very, very regular basis on your social media without any expectation of anything in return. And by the way, that's like pre-Jobs Act stuff. And it still works today. And that's how you get people to trust. But I want to hear what your solution is to the guy who has like smaller properties.
Okay. So of course the fund, that's been the go-to. Hey, it just makes sense. Then kind of the next gyration of this were the series funds, creating the series LLC. The kind of the good and bad with that is you have more protection series by series. Yeah. So there's good reasons there. The downside of it is now you've got to do tax returns for every one of these series.
That's total pain. Terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, with a $500,000 property, you don't want to do another tax return over and over and over and over. So that's an issue. But now, and anybody that's out there, reach out to us for more information about this, but we're helping with these flexible funds, that it is all one regular LLC. From a tax perspective, it's a different class per asset. There is one K1 because it's just one LLC. So it really comes down to the tax election. In terms of protection, I like the series strategies a lot more. But with this, you still put together a SPV, a special purpose vehicle, single purpose vehicle, whatever you got to do to just buy that one property.
Mm.
So you still have that, but it's a pass through to this one LLC. And now all of a sudden you can do the $500,000 properties. You can do the $100,000 lots because it's just creating a new class. It's creating a new disregarded entity.
Okay, hold on a second though. So I'm assuming, so you have an SPV, but that SPV has to spin off on K1 to the LLC, doesn't it?
No, because it's a single owner, same manager.
Oh, so it's a pass through. So it's
exactly.
a C. Oh, that's neat. Okay, all right. Wait. All right, so wait. Now I got to ask you. So then you have Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. Class A owns one property. Class B owns another property. And you don't have any issues with accounting?
The accounting gets more complex because you're still accounting for every property, the allocation of expenses. You're accounting for it like it's a series.
But it's only one 1065.
Exactly.
Oh, that does make a big difference. That does, because I had to prepare 1065s this year for three investments I was in with some other investors, and it was a freaking nightmare.
Yep.
It's like I have one K1 for this 1065, and you're making like one K1 comes in. I have to pay an entire 1065 for one K1. It's awful. Ugh.
Yep. And there's the issue. And we don't advise this or encourage this. If you are doing like multifamily, you're doing bigger deals, like you need to have that extra layer of protection. Plus it can be more difficult with getting loans and financing and making all that work too.
Yeah.
However, here is a strategy if you're doing those little deals and it's too small of a deal to do a syndication. It's too small of an LLC to have to deal with these tax returns. Here's now a strategy that works across the board.
Sure. Wow.
Hey, we get a little creative since you haven't been over here at Crowdfunding Lawyers. We've missed you, but have truly taken it new and sometimes more creative.
Hey,
direction.
that's what you have to do that, because otherwise, like, I mean, that's the world we live in, and you want to make it so that, I mean, that was the great thing about practicing securities law as opposed to like saying criminal law or any other type of law, is that you can
criminals.
Yeah, good point. It's not just about trying to stay within the law, although that's abundantly important. You want to be you want to color it within the lines as best you can. But it's also about these are people's businesses and these are people's investments, and you want to try to make it work for them as much as possible. This isn't a mediation or an arbitration or a family court thing where nobody walks away happy. You want everybody to walk away happy. And so if you can color within the lines and find those creative solutions, yeah, do it. But still color within the lines, everyone. You always color within the lines.
I actually think there's two different types of lawyers. And I can tell you, I've never won an argument, and we get it's a zero-sum game. You have a winner, you've got a loser. It is what it is. Those are the fighters. Then you got us transactional guys that at the end of the deal, just everybody's got to be happy. Everybody's got to get along. They got to get what they want across the board, or the deal doesn't close. Totally different perspective. And may have gotten frozen entirely. Oh,
I did, but I'm back.
okay. I was gonna say it looked like you had one of these anime filters there for a second. I'm like, Jillian?
Oh, that's fun. I would have liked to see that. Aw. But like what, okay, let's talk for a second, because the economy is, to me, like, it's still, despite despite all my Pollyanna, I've been there before kids attitude, it is kind of rough out there. So what are we seeing for deals? Like, what should investors be looking out for, and what should board syndicators be out there looking for?
Deals that work. No, I mean, I say that in jest, but seriously, making the numbers work in the environment with the higher expenses, higher interest rates.
Yeah.
It's kissing a lot more frogs. It's opening up those haystacks that much more. But I can tell you, people are still finding them. And when they do, it is the opportunity to acquire now, because things will get better. And as things get better, values go up and you profit.
Yeah, things are going to get better. I mean, things will get better. I know they will, because I remember 2008 all too well. I remember how miserable that was for a lot of people. At that point. Yeah, that's miserable. That's some misery right there. I mean, we're seeing it now. Like, there's people passing around properties that, in San Francisco. I think I saw one in Houston the other day of all these, especially high rises that are being foreclosed on and going back to the bank. And you and I know some people who have, had to capital call. I'm invested in, like, I don't even know how many deals I'm invested in. And that's not a humble brag or even a brag. I truly don't know. Like, I just invest when the timing's good. A lot of these people keep, like, spreadsheets of how many units they own. I don't have that information. I don't see the point of keeping that information. So I don't know how many units I own, but it's a lot. And I've only been capital called once. I'd like to keep it.
Don't worry, the year is young.
Shut up.
But I do want to say something about capital calls for anybody that's been doing deals and is listening. These things happen.
They do, yeah.
Macroeconomics, there's not much you can do about it. And it's either the investors lose everything or you do some sort of a capital call. But this is at least what we kind of coach people on, is at first have your capital call, have your vote. And either the investors want to save their deal or not. And it is up to them whether it's a majority, super majority, really important. If they vote no, next step, go ask them for a loan.
Yeah.
If they still say no, go find a loan out somewhere else. Then kind of that last case scenario, there's definitely those private equity firm preferred rate investors that are going to take an arm and a leg and potential control of your deal at some point if you don't perform. They're out there. Try to get this figured out first.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing you want to try to, I don't know. Is it the worst thing is that I struggle with this, right? Like, is the worst thing that the bank takes the property back, or that you put good money after a bad deal? You know what I mean? Like, what's worse?
Not that, but it's not that, because they can be good deals when it happened. And most of the time it's a good deal when it happens. Macroeconomics, costs, changes of the demographics. We've got a client that, that literally had a homeless shelter move next to one of their deals.
Ooh. Oh,
Guess what?
wow.
They're still trying to make it work, but man, it's an uphill battle that has absolutely nothing to do with the deal whatsoever. So these are the types of things that, people are still struggling with.
Mm, mm. Yeah, the interest rate has been quite a shock to a lot of deals, right? You go from a 4% to 8%, that's double. That's double. It's only 4%, but it's double. That's a huge difference in your cash flow and your everything. And you guys in Texas have like the issue with taxes and insurance constantly changing on you.
Insurance has tripled, property taxes have doubled. I'm in the Dallas area, and that used to be like ground zero for making deals happen. With the cost, it does come down to the numbers, and people in good deals are still making the numbers work, still finding opportunities that the numbers work. Just that needle in the haystack, really figuring it out.
Right. So what do you do? Like, so when a client comes to you and says, "Oh my God, I'm going to have to capital call," what do you say? Do you say go and do the capital call, or do you guys do
Close your eyes, hold your nose, jump in and figure it out? No. I mean,
what do you do?
I mean, it is what it is at those points. And kind of our first discussion is, was it a good deal to begin with? And the answer is inevitably yes. There's good reasons why the issuer, the sponsor, the management, the GP, whatever you want to call it, did the work to close, did the work to find the capital. And it's really important for them to remember that. And it's those next things that happened really make the difference. So that's the starting point. But from there, you got to be transparent, communicate with the investors. This is what's going on. This is what's actually happening with the property. And to your advice, being honest.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, being honest.
Yeah.
And also honest with, we need money.
And I guess that for me, a question for you would be, are you, I don't know how to put this without sounding like a jerk. So I'll just sound like a jerk. But when you have a client who comes through the door, are you vetting their deal before you're writing the documents? And then saying like, and making those judgment calls on whether or not you think it's a good deal before you'll write the documents, or no?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not the GP. I don't dig into or ever know the demographics. I'm not a bank, not getting these third-party reports. We've got to trust our clients, and we do trust our clients. We run background checks. So still trust the clients, but still run background checks. But there's a reason why people are doing this and are doing a deal and bringing together the investors and making something happen. And it's generally because they truly believe in it, and they have to believe in it. That has to come across when you're talking to investors. Right. That being said, we've had some of those clients that, no, I'm just going to pitch the 30% return. They're going to invest because of that 30% annualized return. And then they're pissed off because it never actually works out that way. Oh, so you don't discourage them. You just let them. I encourage people to, well, this is really market. And great. You said that this deal is going to return 30%. You've got the financial analysis and their appraisals and everything else that says it's going to do 30%. Phenomenal. Very excited for you. We'd love to help, but I'm not going to invest. And I'm going to tell you what the market is. And it ain't that.
Nah, listen, I mean, maybe I was a little out of pocket. I would tell people like, that's not going to work. You just going out and telling people you're going to make 30% isn't going to work. And then you're not going to deliver it. And there was one time I tried to do that. I tried to be like, again, a person who shall remain nameless. I tried to say, hey, I really wouldn't offer this. This seems like you're over promising. I don't see how you're going to be able to deliver this. So I'd be really mindful before you make this offer. Mm-hmm. And they knew better than me in their mind. And they offered it and lost the property. Not just didn't under promise and or over promised and under delivered. They fell flat on their face. So yeah.
And we coach people on that, and we'll inform them of that, and we'll say it. But again, you're not putting together the deal. You don't really know.
You don't really know
circumstances.
Yeah,
you gotta trust. And if we're told it is what we're gonna do, and absolutely have seen plenty of deals actually return that. Even if people are only pitching 15%, then something amazing happens. It doubles in price. I mean, we've seen this repeatedly in multifamily over the last decade. It does happen.
Yeah. No, I mean it does. But the great story is right that they promised me 12 and they gave me 20. Right? Those are the stories you want people out there telling, in my opinion.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So
in terms of structures, I know you're still coaching people. You've got your masterminds, your trainings.
Yeah.
Actually, I have no clue what you're doing. Can you share?
So
we actually don't catch up this often. So
I know. So a couple things. One, for the last year, I've been a volunteer math teacher. And my career as a volunteer math teacher has recently ended. I was actually pursuing a master's degree in education, thinking that I was going to do more in the education space. And that's just not working out. It's not working out. The kids were actually the best. The kids are the best. It's everything else that comes around it. And it's not for me. It's just not for me. It was not my purpose. My purpose, one of the things that always bothered me about practicing law and teaching raising capital, as you know, which was, when I started thinking I want to get out of law in 2018, or not so much get out of law, but I needed to make some kind of change. In 2019, I met Jeff Holst, who's my business partner in a bunch of things. We invest in a bunch of real estate together, and we have a program called Last Life Ever. Jeff too was not a real estate attorney. He was a bankruptcy attorney, and he had the same thought process as I did. Like, I like making money. I do. I like making money. I like helping people make money. I like helping people raise capital and figure that out and figure out how to do it the right way and do it with integrity and joy. But I also want them to do it with purpose, right? And far too often, I would ask people, what is the goal? What do you want to do? And the answer was, well, I want to own we deal with a lot of real estate entrepreneurs. I want to own 1,000 units by the end of next year. And it's like, the next question was always, well, why? Well, I just think that's a good goal to have. Well, that's a terrible goal to have if the reason why you have the goal is just because you think it's a good goal to have. It lacks purpose. So, I started Last Life Ever with Jeff, where we take that wealth building into a more purposeful manner. Because honestly, it's not just about the wealth building. It's about building wealth and then being able to do things with that wealth. So we think, you have to have purpose. You have to have amazing habits. You have to have amazing habits, not just to live like the life you want to lead and to reach the goals you want to reach, but also you have to have amazing habits to raise capital. How many people do we know, Nate, that are like great at raising capital, but have terrible habits, so their investors end up hating them because they don't have a system in place to
the reporting,
the care, the aftercare, right? The bedside manner. They lack that. So you start with your purpose, then you have some great habits, then you focus on your financial well-being and your financial health. Then you can go and you can look at doing like, having more adventure in your life and having experiences, because what is the point of having wealth if you're not experiencing life? And finally, giving back to your community and seeing how you can give back to your community. And so that's what I was doing last year, was teaching math, because I was trying to give back to my community. I worked at a food pantry for 4 years when I lived in California, and I loved that. It gave me so much joy. It gave me so much purpose. So in teaching out here, I felt like, okay, that can give me some joy and purpose. It didn't give me all the joy I was looking for, unfortunately. It gave me a little bit of purpose. But I've been working on this with Jeff and helping entrepreneurs find joy, find purpose, get good habits, build their wealth, and raising capital is part of that. And so when you go out to raise capital, I find it so much more meaningful and so much more successful when you can have all those other things attached to it. Like when you're like, I recognize I'm raising capital because I have this purpose. I can do it well because I have these habits. I want to build my wealth so I can have more extraordinary experiences, and I can give back to my community, and it's all interconnected. So that's what I'm doing, Nate.
I love it. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
In terms of raising capital, are you still working with people this is how you market, this is how you structure, this is, or you're just living in paradise?
No, for the while I was doing the math, I was also helping a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people I sent your way because they still need a good lawyer. I can help them figure out how to raise capital all day long. It doesn't help if they don't have a lawyer to help them along. But yeah, I was helping people with their capital raises and putting their structures together and putting blueprints together for their business. And now we've just folded that whole concept into Last Life Ever. And it's really saying like, great, I'm going to help you with the capital raising, and I'm going to help you with the structure. I'm going to help you with your growth, your company growth. But I need to see these other parts. I want a 360-degree view. I don't want to just look at that straight on at this capital raise. I want to see how do all these other things affect that capital raise, and how is your capital raise affecting all of those other things as well. So yeah, if anybody's out there looking to raise capital and you need help with the actual, not the legal aspect, but the actual mechanics, the what I like to say, the 7 pillars and the 21 steps of raising capital, and putting that together, let me know. I'm here. We can talk about it.
At the end of the day, is Best Life Ever really focused on living that life of abundance and positivity?
It's, I don't want to make it so much like about positivity, but like Jeff will tell you that he hasn't had a bad day since he was 17 years old. He actually wrote a book called, I have a copy around here somewhere, but he actually wrote a book called No Bad Days. And he talks about how, bad things and good things happen to us every day, but we can say the day is still a good day no matter what. And he talks about how he got cancer, and even the day he was told he had cancer, he can tell you like 4 different good things that happened to him on that day that he was told he had cancer. So there's good things and bad things that happen every day. And I don't want it to be like a toxic positivity environment, Last Life Ever. It's more about how do you live the best version of your life, whatever that means to you. Do you have purpose? Do you have good habits? Are you building wealth? Are you embracing extraordinary experiences? And are you part of a community, and are you giving back to that community? Whatever that community is too. That doesn't just mean like you go out and work at a food pantry. It means, is there a community that you belong to, and are you contributing to it?
So if you're still really involved with this, are you seeing areas that more so people should be focused on to do more deals, that the numbers are working, that the opportunities are really there?
Yeah. I mean, and I think this comes with being, somebody could tell you this 1,000 times and you're not going to believe it till you experience it yourself, right? How many times have you and I both heard there's no good deals out there right now?
I mean, every other day.
Every other day, right? There's no good deals out there right now. It's tough out there. I say, can I swear? I say bullshit. I did it.
I think that's actually the title of this when it lives on YouTube.
Because that's the first thing that comes to my head. Because there are always deals somewhere. As a matter of fact, and I know this is a terrible analogy, but I'm going to do it anyhow because it's the first thing that pops in my head. The guy who started Countrywide, I can't remember his name, but he was like this slick looking, over spray tan, tons of rings Italian guy, right? That was the guy who started Countrywide, right? So he Countrywide Mortgage back in the 2006 era, and he single-handedly caused a lot of the strife that happened in 2007 and 2008 with all his stupid loans, right? So he causes all these problems, and you know what he does? He turns around and starts a fund and buys all the distressed properties that he caused. Thank you, Angela Mazzillo. Thank you, Robert. So you too can find opportunity anywhere. That's my point being is there's always opportunity there. You just have to refocus. And if you have an amazing purpose, the properties or the deals or the business that you're in will be secondary to that major. I want to provide homes to those, I have a lot of clients right now who are doing, low income or workforce housing or something like that. And they'll say, I want to provide housing to those in the most need of housing, right? But there's no good deals in Detroit right now. Well, change your city, change your demographic a little bit. You can still live that purpose. You just have to pivot a little bit. So,
and I think you bring up a really good point. Even if it's tough to do a deal in one area, nowadays it's like COVID, work from home. You can do deals everywhere. You can create partnerships everywhere. You can have property management anywhere. So start thinking outside your backyard.
Okay, true story. I, for 5 years, owned 4 properties in Cincinnati, Ohio. I never once saw those properties. I never visited them. I was in Cincinnati once, and they're like, do you want to go by and see your properties? I'm like, if I have time. I didn't have time. I never even saw them. I owned those properties for 4 years, had tenants in them, collected rents, the whole 9 yards. During COVID, somebody offered me money for the properties. I was like, sure, I'll sell them to you. Sold them, and that was it. That was it. From cradle to grave, I never saw the property. So
that's hilarious.
Well, you just have to find a property manager.
I have a short little story for you, and I really want to thank you, and I feel like I'm learned a lot from you over time with Best Life Ever. I hated to be an attorney, for a decade. And I know it's like the weight of it all and the stress of it all. And I know you went through it as well.
Yeah.
And COVID time, you were dealing with your own, this isn't a lot of fun. And it was in the middle of that I and my now partner, who was then an employee, Richard, purchased from you Crowdfunding Lawyers.
Yep.
And
best decision for both of us, I like to think.
Absolutely. And my mental shift of, hating being a lawyer to I love every minute of every day of what I'm doing. And honestly, I have you to thank for that. So,
oh, well, Nate, the feeling is mutual because, like I said, I sat there. I remember the day in my office. I sat in 2018 and I thought, I got to get out of this. I mean, I didn't end up getting out of it until you came along in 2020. And a lot of people don't know. I don't think any people know this, but my partner Nancy and I made a list of all the lawyers we wanted to potentially try to sell the firm to, and thank God Nate and Richard were at the top of the list. They were number one. We only had to call one attorney, and it was Nate and Richard. And thank God, because we didn't want to get to number 3. We were nervous. So it worked out amazing. And the feeling is so mutual. And I couldn't be more grateful, because if it wasn't for you and Richard, I wouldn't be living the best version of my life right now, because I know what you mean. Like, yes, I absolutely know what you mean about the weight of the world and not figuring out how to get out from underneath it. So it's great. And it's so funny because now I have such respect. I have much more respect for it now that I've been away from it for 3 years. And I have such a gratitude towards what I learned while not being in law school, but being a lawyer, which is like having the ability to view particularly documents and situations so much with such a fine-tooth comb of a vision, right? Like I can tell, like, you use 2 different terms here in this document, which is something a layperson. So now I have so much more respect for the profession now that I'm not in it anymore. So
I think at the end of the day, the moral of the story is sometimes it is better on the other greener side.
It is. But can I say you and I are going to work on a little project together? Can I say that? Or is that
please do.
wrong?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Share alike.
Yeah. So I was talking to Nate, and this is so random. We were talking and I was telling him about how I have this, new desire to get into the franchising space, growing your business through franchising. And Nate goes, I was thinking about starting a franchising law firm. And so we're going to be working on that together. So if you're looking at buying or selling a franchise or putting together your business and franchising it out, you know how to call.
Love it. I mean, honestly, though, franchising is just another strategy for growing and capitalizing and creating a nationwide business. Mm-hmm. I frankly love the space. And then on the franchisee side, it's your opportunity to have the plan to step in and become your own boss, your own entrepreneur. And I happen to know, if you need the capital, a great way to do that.
Yeah, see how it all works together? No, I mean, like franchising is such a great opportunity. I've looked at so many franchises of what I want to buy. The problem is I live in Puerto Rico, and so there's a risk factor here in Puerto Rico with buying franchises that just doesn't exist in other spaces. Like, you're not going to have the problem of over competition, like too much competition, unless it's for like acai bowls. There's a lot of acai bowl places around here, but maybe that's your only like big competition around here. But it's more about like permitting, language barriers, income, that kind of stuff. That where you might have a little bit of an issue.
Can you share just a little bit, bringing up Puerto Rico again? I've always heard about the tax benefits of moving there. It sounds too good to be true. How does it really work?
No, that's actually a great question. You really, honestly, I'm not even benefiting from the tax benefits right now. There's a thing called the 60 Act. In the 60 Act, there's 2 like divisions to it. One's called Act 20 and one's called Act 22. If you do an application for export services, then you have, it's something like 0% income tax and only 4% capital gains. Or you can do investor services. And investor services where you're investing in, Puerto Rico and generating income from that. And it's pretty much tax free. It's a great deal. If you can get it and it's useful to you. It wasn't useful. It's not useful to me at the time. It may become useful to me sometime in the future, but right now, I don't participate in Act 60. It's not I feel like it has put a lot of money into the economy. There's a lot of different opinions about it. It's a very contentious contentious political situation here in terms of that. A lot of crypto people come down here and use it. The biggest, to me, I would say there's two big hurdles. One, you have to get an accountant here to do your taxes for the compliance, and that can be quite expensive and challenging and complicated. That's number one. Number two is, and I don't find this to be a big deal at all because I'm a huge charitable donor. You have to give to a 60 Act approved charity $10,000 every year. So to me, if you're a big charity person, 10 grand a year to a decent charity, what do you care, right? You just write a check, call it a day. But it does have to be, it can't be like St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It's got to be an approved 60 Act charity. In other words, something that benefits Puerto Rico, which makes sense, right? Like if you're going to give people tax advantages. Yeah. So it's a great deal. But like, look, this is an island. You got to be prepared for that. It's in an island with its own political structure, its own real estate, its own problems. The electrical grid has massive issues. My house has so many solar panels on it and a generator. So I don't have these issues. That is the advantage of being wealthy and spending your wealth on that kind of stuff. But if you're here and you don't want your electricity to go, you do have to deal with things of like Amazon Prime. This is going to sound so ridiculous, but these are the things you have to deal with. Amazon Prime does not get here in 2 days. That does not happen.
There's no same day delivery because I'm out.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, half the stuff on Amazon you can't even get delivered here. So you just got to be ready. Like not that Amazon's life. I quite frankly would love to do without Amazon if I could. But it's So those are the things you got to understand. You're living in an island. And
I love it. Well, we just have a couple of minutes, so I know we've had quite a few comments in here.
Yeah.
Let's run through if there's any questions or people just saying hi, hello, and we love you.
Keone, that is sweet. And Keone's got to get in touch with me. I see Keone's right in there because I did a investor presentation for Keone. I put one together for him. It was quite good, Keone. You've got to admit. And I've never heard from the man since. I don't know if it was successful or not.
If it's any relation to Charles Manson, it didn't end up well.
What? What?
Didn't you say the Mansons?
No. What? Did I say that? I'm sorry.
I thought you did. I'm out. But you apparently do need to go ahead and get a hold of him. He needs you.
Yeah. Oh, I know John Heyer. I've known John Heyer for many, many, many years. Yeah, he's about 2.5 hours. I'm out on the west coast of Puerto Rico. I'm not near San Juan. He's out in San Juan. But
I mean, it's an island, aren't everybody just neighbors to you?
Yeah, right. And to say it's so funny. I went to St. Thomas, which is a way smaller island than Puerto Rico, which is right next door. And I could not wait to leave. I was like, I got to get off. It's so small. Like I was like, I got to get back to Puerto Rico. At least it takes 6 hours to drive around the islands.
Well, you are living my dream. I had always wanted to sell beer on the beach, fish for dinner.
Yeah. Well, you could do that here. Listen.
I started a tax LLM in international taxation because that was my entire plan. This whole securities thing was a plan B, maybe a plan G, but
Hey,
it works
listen,
out nonetheless.
you guys should come out and we should like take a circle around and find you that beach bar. We'll go in on it together. You know, and then
I'm in.
we'll franchise the opportunity to other coastal towns.
I love it. Sold.
All right,
I'm on my way.
all right. I know we're running out of time, but let's get this. Any thoughts on setting up an entity and a call center with sales coming from USA, creating taxable income in Puerto Rico? No. Like, are you selling from Puerto Rico into the US? Because then that would be part of the export services. You could do 60 Act on that for sure. Yeah, for sure. And that's actually a great deal, Steve. That's a great idea. If you can actually put that together, because then you're also creating employment for Puerto Ricans. And I mean, the town I live in, the average income is $13,000 a year. And the cost of living here is higher than California. So
Don't you have to actually live in Puerto Rico though? Be there at least like
you have to be.
181
Yeah,
days,
you do.
or-
You have to be here 180 days. See, I don't even think about that because I'm here all the time. Like a lot of people do that. They leave. I don't leave. So yeah, you have to be here for 180 days, Steve. And they do check that. So
Well,
but who wouldn't want to
I'm
live in
still sold.
paradise? Yeah, exactly.
Right? Well, I'm going the other direction where everybody from California is moving to Texas.
You're going to go to California?
Yeah, I miss the beach. I miss the perfect
Yeah.
weather. So we're seriously considering going that direction. So.
I get it. I listen. There's days I miss Temecula. I'm going to be out there this summer, so maybe we can get together.
Sounds like a plan. Really
Awesome.
appreciate catching up with you. We got to do it again sometime soon.
For sure. For sure. Awesome. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.